Hi witchlings, welcome back to my channel. Today is a fun video, I think. About a year ago, almost over a year ago I think, I've been doing this for about 2 years now, I made a video called 10 Best Books for Beginner Witches. And this was a video that got a huge amount of traction, and I really like the video still. But I do think that you guys deserve a more in-depth recommendation list for my favorite books for beginners. So that's what this video is. These are my best books for beginner witches. Because of the depth to which witchcraft holds and the information on witchcraft holds, I am separating this into different parts. I can't get it down to 10 because I don't think that there's a solid 10 books that I would say have beginners. Instead, this is going to go over herbal books that I recommend, books on tarot, books on candle magic, even if there's just like one that I love, historical references for witchcraft and magic, and books in general that I think are great for beginner witches to have their hands on. So I don't know if you noticed this giant stack of books next to me, but we're gonna start with historical references. We have The Triumph of the Moon. This is a historical book on the modern pagan witchcraft tradition by Ronald Hutton. This is a little bit harder to get through, but it's great. I do recommend that you read this book for context on pagan traditions. There are other books that I am hoping to get my hands on, like A Discovery of Witches, old grimoires with more historical context to specifically offer what the information that we have on witchcraft and historical, esoteric knowledge today. I was recommended this book by a great person. This book, Triumph of the Moon, goes over god, goddess structure, high magic, low magic, folklore, witchcraft, and then the macrocosm section and microcosm, Gerald Gardner, Gerald's People, hostility, reinforcement, old craft, new craft, royalty from the north, Uncle Sam and the goddess, coming of age, grandchildren of the shadows, conclusion. So it goes for a larger macrocosm and a smaller microcosm. I think that it's a great historical book. Ronald Hutton is a great historian, which is why this book is great. It is thick boy. Thick fucking boy. So keep that in mind when you're reading it. This book I got recently. If you are really interested in his history of magic, occultism, esotericism, the Greek Magical Papyri translation. This is, I believe, our first document that we have on witchcraft. It's great for understanding what magic used to look like or how it was there. It's a whole thing of a bunch of different rituals, formulas, hymns, and rituals from Greco-Roman Egypt. So we got some like love charms in here, divine assistance, document to the waning moon, spell for revelation. It's a lot, and this was expensive. This was like around $60, and I want you to keep that in mind. This is an expensive fucking text, so it's okay if you don't get it right away. For examples, like the formulas are cool. You don't have to necessarily pull spells from here, but in terms of ceremonialism and studying it, this is a good historical text to keep in mind and read. Moving on, these are my historical books. I have other historical books that I have decided I don't love for multiple reasons. I'm reorganizing really quick. Hold on. So there will be a lot of books in here that you have seen me talk about before, frequently. In terms of herbalism and candle magic, books that are great for that, I recommend 2 books. Candle Magic by Madame Fanita. I actually love this. It's a really conclusive guide. It goes over like ceremancy, reading the wax, ritual stuff. Any questions you have ever had about spell candles, it is probably in here. And I love that for me, and I love that for you too. There are parts of it I don't agree with, like every book, but I love this book. Types of candles, like color magic, triple action. Purchasing like practical candle magic, ritual color magic, or ritual candle magic. I'm done. Breakdown of spells. I've gotten a whole an appendix. Like this section here is all appendix, which is great. I love, wait, I think there's more. Hold on. Yeah, appendix. This is the section of Candle Magic. This is the appendix. This is published by Llewellyn, I believe, and I love this book. I've been using it frequently in my practice. The other book I recommend, this is the herbal book that I own. This is Plant Witchery by Juliet Diaz. One of the books that I recommended in my past video was a book on herbal magic that I used purely for the correspondences and completely missed a section that was incredibly problematic. This is the replacement book. Juliet Diaz is amazing. I love Juliet Diaz, okay? I will talk so happily about her. I believe she has a new book that just came out called The Altar Within. And her other book that she wrote is on my list for best beginner books. So there's just potions information. It goes over the name, essential properties, medicinal properties, magical properties, and plant wisdom. So this is just, it's so well done, and there's so many different plants in here. And also Juliet Diaz is an indigenous author. She's just amazing. Oh, I fangirl over Juliet Diaz frequently. When she followed me back on Instagram and TikTok, I cried. So that's me. It's just so many good things. We got mugwort in here, and all of these correspondences are great. And we have, you know, nature, learning from my elders, becoming a plant witch. What is a plant witch? What is magic? It's just such a good book. We have lists of rituals, spells, potions, compendium of plants. The first part goes over plant witchery and the secret language of plants. And I think that this book itself has more of a animist feel to it, which I really enjoy in herbal books. I think that more herbal books should have an animist, you know, feeling to it, because a lot of times when you're working with these plants and working with herbs, you have to consider the spirit that you're working with in terms of like animism. All right, now we're getting into books that I just think are good for beginners. This section probably comes to around 10 books. And I do want to say there are a few books that I don't have the copy of. I used to have copies of them, but I lent them to friends and haven't gotten them back yet. So on that list, I recommend Witchery by Juliet Diaz. I hope Sally can insert a nice little picture here. I recommend Psychic Witch by Matt Oren. And I recommend Weave the Liminal by Laura Tempest Zakroff. Those three books I really enjoyed. I feel like great for different ideas around beginning witchcraft. There's a fly in here. Weird. I do really enjoy their kind of takes on it. Witchery by Juliet Diaz is a favorite of mine, as well as a lot of people in my Patreon Discord. Psychic Witch goes over a lot of meditation, psychic abilities, etc. And Weave the Liminal, I feel like, is a very good testimony. Yeah, those are the three books that I know a lot of beginners enjoy. So in terms of books that are not on witchcraft, but I have copies of and still recommend for beginner witches, this one is called Exploring Racism in the Pagan Community, Bringing Race to the Table. It is edited by Crystal Blanton, Taylor Elwood, and Randy Williams. You can tell that I enjoy it because of all these. This is a book that I think is necessary for every pagan or witch to read, because in order to understand our community, our role, we have to understand the bad parts too. The bad parts being racism. I read this book originally in book club, Patreon book club. A lot of people really enjoyed it for multiple reasons. It's sectioned off. We really start with people of color's experience with racism, historical and mythological racism, and then being an ally. And this was published a while ago. It was published in 2015. And I do think there's a lot of things in here that are really useful even today, like 7 years later, because we still have racism in our community. It hasn't gone anywhere. This is the first book I recommend. It's about witchcraft in the witchcraft community, but it's not like a guide on it. The next book is Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Will Kammerer. This book is a book. Did I put a flower in here? Hold on, I thought There's a leaf in my book. Tells you a lot about me. This book is talking about, lenses of knowledge. So we talk about botany, but we also talk about indigenous beliefs around plants, nature, etc. I think this is a great book for everyone to read. It's beautiful. I cried while reading it. It's that kind of book you will cry. Indigenous wisdom, scientific knowledge, and the teachings of plants. If you're interested in understanding, or even interested in forming a relationship with the land you're on, if you're in a place that was colonized and belongs to indigenous people, Braiding Sweetgrass will get you started on that path. It's the starting point. It's not the ending point, but it is it's one of my favorite books for so many reasons. But if you really want to start learning about the land you're on, start with the indigenous wisdom. Start with Braiding Sweetgrass. Start with the cultures that resided here before you. That's how you form a relationship with the land to begin with, especially on colonized land, stolen land. That's why I like plant witchery as well, because I feel like it takes a more animist approach, and I love it. All right, adding on to books on witchcraft that are actually about witchcraft that I enjoy and recommend for beginners. Witchery, Weave the Liminal, and Psychic Witch are books that I feel like apply and can apply to a lot of different witches. These are books that I personally enjoy and feel like really helped me in my practice even now. So they are tailored a little bit more to ancestor work, animism, folk practices. Starting off, Year of the Witch by Temperance Alden. I've mentioned this before. I use it to help me structure my Sabbath videos. It's a great book. I love it. I'm surprised that more people aren't talking about it and use it as an introduction to the Wheel of the Year if you're interested in that kind of pagan aspect. It's also great for forming your own Wheel of the Year. This helps connect with the land as well. I would read this after Braiding Sweetgrass. Temperance Alden is great. She also has a Patreon, Instagram page. Check her out. Next one, Honoring Your Ancestors. If you're interested in ancestor work, start here. This book is great. It really kind of looks at, ancestral veneration, mediumship, spiritual hygiene, offerings, different types of ancestors too, building an ancestor altar. If you feel like ancestor veneration is supposed to be a part of your practice, but you don't know where to start, I always recommend this book. I think it's one of the books that I continue to go back to and use again and again. Again and again. There are not many books that I will consistently use in my practice. This book, the Candle Magic book, Plant Witchery are those books that I go to again and again and again. As well as that, this one is a personal favorite of mine. 6 Ways by Aidan Wachter. As you can tell, I liked it because of all these. Aidan Wachter is a friend of mine. We are mutuals. I love him. He also has a book called Weaving Fate that I haven't gotten my hands on yet, and I love. So this book goes over books. Oh, this is a really pretty bookmark. Where did I get this? This book goes more over things that I find very specific to my practice, so depending on your practice, it's hit or miss. Very much animism, spirit work, petitions, sigils, servitor spirits, all this kind of stuff that is similar to what my practice is. And I think that's why I love this book so much by Aidan Wachter, is because I find it to be reflective of my practice so much. And that's why I love it, because it helps me a lot. But be aware that this is probably going to be hit or miss for you. You may read it and be like, wow, nothing in here feels applicable to me. That's okay. Try Weaving Fate too. I haven't gotten Weaving Fate yet, but I have so many notes in here because I just keep reading the book and finding more, which is why I can't not recommend it when I love it so much. Moving on, this is a new book that I'm still working through, but I am including it in here because it is very promising to me for multiple reasons. This is The Witch at the Forest's Edge. I love this book so much. It goes over things that I feel like a lot of beginner books don't. And that's why I like it. Of course, like in here we have like things that we already know about, like, you know, the Wheel of the Year, etc. But let me give you a little intro on what's in here. I love it because it started talking about working with spirits right away. And I was like, what? Yes, please. Worldview and spirituality, communing with spirits, spiritual ancestry, intuition, cultivating spirit senses, creating ritual, hedge writing, divination, theology. In theology, she talks about working with deities. Agreeing in local craft, the practical use of magical theory, spellcraft, magical ethics. This book is not necessarily based off of the tradition that Christine Grace has, but it is very useful, and she does mention that, you know, some of these parts are in there. Who is texting me? So anyways, Witch of the Forest says. I feel like similar to Six Ways, this is a book that not everyone will agree with, or not everyone will like, because it talks about working with spirits, working with deities, and those are things that are really in my practice. However, that's not everyone. But I still feel like even if you don't work with spirits and work with deities, there are still things in here that can help you. And that's what I love about books, is because I'm like, oh, this still works. I love it. This is just such a, Also, Wiser sent this to me. Thank you, Wiser. I would love to receive more books from you because this is good. This is some good shit. Excuse my language. But Christine Grace is also just, from what I can tell from this book, super smart, super cool. I would like to be her friend. Christine, if you're watching this and you want to be my friend, hit me up. Last one that I have here, excuse my throat, is The Witch's Path by Thorn Mooney. I've heard great things about this. You know, I have not finished it, but of this particular book, I do love it. Thorn Mooney, so preface, Thorn Mooney, I'm not 100% sure if she still identifies Wiccan. Yeah, she's High Priestess of Foxfire, traditional Gardnerian coven, thriving in the American South. So she is a Wiccan. Keep that in mind, is that she's writing from the Wiccan perspective, but there's still levels of this book that are great. Like, it goes into a lot of things, like community devotion, ritual and magic, baneful magic, which is unheard of, in my opinion, in these books. Yeah, I just think she goes over a lot of things. Thorn Mooney, I really respect as an individual. I really love her. Personal practice, sacred space, study. Like, these are things that I think we don't talk about a lot. Community as well is in here. And challenges. I don't necessarily think that The Witch's Path, or the books that I see as beginner books or being tailored to beginners, include these topics, and that's why I love it. It is for advancing your craft at every level. It'll help you get unstuck, find inspiration. If you're a beginner who feels overwhelmed, disillusioned, adept, a jaded coven leader, or anyone in between. This book shares specific hands-on tips for what you can do to move forward spiritually today, no matter what your starting point. Thank you, Thorn Mooney. I am a practitioner of 6-7 years, and this book, I just love books when they can teach me things that I don't know. When I can hear about the opinions of another practitioner and include them in my practice. And I mean, a lot of these books that I am suggesting as books that I love, that you may not love, you can approach them with, okay, I may hate this book. This book may not be helpful for me. I may disagree with things in this book. And you can still maybe come out on the other side with more knowledge or different perspective or things that maybe you were like, you know what, I never thought that I would think this way or learn about this, but I still like it. And that's my favorite thing. That's when that happens. That's what Six Ways did for me. That's what At the Forest Edge has done for me, and that's what The Witch's Path is doing for me, are these books that I read them and I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna like this, I don't know if it's gonna help me, but it does, and it gives me a different perspective and helps me contribute to my own practice. It's just, literature. And yeah, this video may be added onto with more books that I find that I love. If you're looking for encyclopedias, I recommend Judith Isles. I may make another or more videos, you know, adding more talking more about books that I find that I really love for beginners. And yeah, I am I am self-inserting myself. I did write a book. I did write a book. And this book is tailored to beginners. I think I did a good job. But if you're looking for a beginner book that kind of goes over what I consider the foundational things, you can try this. It's okay if you don't like it. I did tailor it to beginners and people who are just starting witchcraft. So if you're an experienced reader and you read it and you're like, wow, this book doesn't feel like it's advanced enough. This book could have had a lot more experience in it, all this other stuff. May I recommend you are not the target audience. Because I do sometimes see reviews that are like, I really wish Frankie went on and talked about more like experienced topics or more like advanced things. I will be in the later books. So this book is just not the book that I was doing for that. I made it very 101, very Witchcraft 101. If you're interested in hearing about what's in it, what does it mean to be a modern witch, the tools and foundations for making change, bases of spellcraft, materials of spellcraft, meditation, grounding, manipulating energy. I do go over shadow work, manifesting change through witchcraft, cleansing and protecting spaces, the journey to self-love and self-prioritization, banishing unwanted energy, binding those who do harm, shadow work and its purpose, understanding ourselves and our shadow in a global sense, witchcraft is a practice, not a religion, witchcraft as activism, witchcraft in the environment, desettling and decentering the craft. This is the book that I wish I had when I was a beginner. Another book that I may be reading soon that was recommended to me is Of Blood and Bones, which also apparently is a really great book. But if you're looking for correspondences, etc., those are in here. If you're looking for like cleansing, etc., I talk about sigils, I talk about circle casting if you're interested in that, cleansing, protecting spaces, different spells in here as well. The first half is really foundational, bare bone basics, because then I build off that in the second half. I'm not recommending my own book. I want to be clear with that. I am, however, saying I wrote a book, and if you're interested in giving me a review or you're a beginner and looking for a beginner book, this could be a good book for you. It's not available in the US yet. I just got put in contact with the US publishers to get everything set. This is the UK edition. The US edition is coming out in April 2022, which is a while away, but it's okay because, you know, we're gonna wait for it. If you're interested in the UK edition, we do have, this is Orion Spring, shout out. I hope that one day my book will get on other people's beginner witch book recs. That's my goal. That's what I wrote it for. And yeah, if you're interested in hearing more about the process of writing this book, leave a comment. I also am throwing it in because why not? But anyways, that is all I have for you guys today. If you are interested in seeing more book recs, you are interested in me talking about specific books that I really enjoy and why, leave a comment, let me know. I hope you find this video useful to you in looking for books and choosing books that vibe with you. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. Remember to drink water. If you feel like you want to subscribe, turn the bell on, leave a like. You can do that, but absolutely no pressure. Remember to take care of yourself. Sa benedica.